Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash. Now, over the 9-season run of The Flash on the CW, of course, we saw many deaths happen both on and off screen. Mostly on, but some were off. Whether they were like major players' deaths that have been around for many seasons, or even a character that we'd only met that very season and then dies later on. So in this video, I thought I would go over my top 10 deaths from The Flash, from, the show, and talk about each one. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your top deaths, especially if they didn't make the list, whether it's a top 3, whether it's a top 10, or just your number 1, or just mention one that I didn't mention. Feel free to do that, and of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, drop a like on the video, it takes 2 seconds. But yeah, let's get into it. Of course, we're going to be starting at 10th, and I will have some honorable mentions sprinkled in at one point in the countdown as well. So at number 10, coming in last spot on this list, but not last place overall, we actually have a bit of a surprising one that maybe some weren't expecting, but that's Joe West from Season 8. Now, obviously, this was a fake out, but I feel like it warrants being on this list. Like that moment when we found out that Joe was killed at that point in the timeline, and just Barry's reaction and everything like that, it was insane. And it's very important to remember that like, it happened, not right at the beginning, like this big reveal, like in the first scene or something. It was later on, like no one really picked it because there wasn't really a point in any of the episodes leading to that point where Joe should have shown up. It was pretty crazy. If he actually stayed dead from that point, this arguably would end up in the top 3 possibly, though the death happened off screen, but the actual reveal itself was definitely probably a top 3 moment. At number 9, I have Ralph Dibny from Season 4. Now, of course, Ralph does end up coming back alive only, a handful, a few episodes later, roughly. But this death did impact Barry very deeply and just made him frustrated with himself. And I think the audience did side with that frustration towards Barry. Ralph was right in what he was saying, and just, Barry wasn't listening. And it ended with Ralph dying, though for a short period. But it easily could have been permanent. At number 8, I actually have Cisco from Season 1. Shocking. And if this was, legit, similar to the Joe West situation, this would be much higher on the list, but it ends up at 8 and it's higher than Joe West just because it played into the first instance of time travel for Barry, and we also got to see it on screen while Joe's was off screen. But just imagine if that Cisco death just stood and he was just gone, arguably people's probably second favorite character, in some cases maybe their favorite character over Barry, and he just dies in that. And you had that amazing scene leading up to it as well. Would have been crazy if that stood, but yeah. Just because it didn't stick, it stays at number 8 because it's a death that was undone. But if we're just talking about death scenes as a whole, this might be top 3, similar to, well, once again, Joe's wasn't on screen, so this would probably just make it top 3, if not number 1. But at number 7, we have Zoom from Season 2. It wasn't shocking. I mean, it's the villain. Not a surprise that he dies, though he technically doesn't die, but he becomes death. So technically it is a death scene, so it fits into being in the top 10 death scenes. It's just overly harsh. Not shocking, but just harsh what happens to him. He gets slowly turned into Black Flash and then has to go on being that creature for the rest of his life. It's also a bit gross. He just slowly degrades and just rots, I guess, inside that suit. I thought it was, pretty sick, especially for network TV, but still a cool death scene. Though, once again, as I said, he didn't die, but he became death in a bit of a grey area, I guess. At number 6, I have the OG Harrison Wells, which of course was from the Season 1 flashbacks. I wanted to emphasize that it's in the flashbacks for Season 1. And it's similar to Zoom. It's not this massive death, I guess you could say, in regards to the lead up and everything like that. It's just harsh, but also it's just a big moment learning what happened in the storyline at that point and just what happened with Reverse Flash and everything. Of course, being paired up with the death of his wife at the same time as well. Now, of course, this is undone technically with the Timeless Wells being the same version essentially, but I think it's worth being in this spot just because of the lead up, the actual death scene itself, and what it meant going forward, and also this being a big reveal for the overall storyline for that season. At number 5, halfway through this countdown, we have the fake Jay Garrick / Time Remnant Hunter Zolomon, whichever way you want to word it. I think most people just call him the fake Jay Garrick from Season 2. Now, this was arguably probably the most surprising in this list, I think, based off just a single 1 second before and 1 second after and what happens. At the time, at the very least, was just a big shocking death that just happens out of nowhere, because we all thought this was legit Jay Garrick at this point. There was some questionable things about him, but you might just been well, maybe just Earth 2 is a weird joint, so even the hero of Jay Garrick is just a bit odd. And I think it was just moments after this, I think, or maybe it was the episode after, I can't remember specifically, but it was definitely after this moment from memory that we got the reveal that this, fake Jay Garrick and Zoom are the same person. Well, they look the same. Later to be revealed, that Jay, the Jay that we were with was the time remnant of Hunter Zolomon, aka Zoom. But just that moment where he's in front of the portal, it just seemed sus, but you're just like, oh, okay, whatever, maybe it's just weird placement, and then he gets clawed through, dragged back over to Earth 2. Just a crazy moment and definitely unexpected. And number 4, just missing out on the top 3, is Nora Allen, aka Barry's mum from season 1. And this pretty much just comes down to importance. Pretty simple. We already discussed this when in my top 10 Arrowverse deaths, if you've watched that. But though we didn't spend really any time with Nora before she died, outside of like a couple of scenes with her and Barry, like the young Barry, her death is arguably the most important on the show. So I think it just deserves to be around this point, regardless of the ferociousness of it, though it's a pretty vicious death, just being stabbed in the heart and let to just bleed out, I guess. But before we move into the top 3, I thought I'd do some honorable mentions. Now, there might be some that you think are worthy more being put in here, but these were the 3 that I was thinking of that I just didn't put in here. One of them is an off-screen death, though. So that is Gypsy from season 6, just because a lot of people did not like this death, but I think it's also like a big important thing for Cisco as well. But this did happen in season 6 and she was killed off screen. I think this was just because obviously the actress was cast in, I know she was in Watchmen, the HBO Watchmen show, but I think she might have been cast as a regular on another show. Can't remember what it was off the top of my head. So she couldn't come back and do anything. So they just decided we'll kill her off. So that's what happened there, I guess. But I think she was like a pretty decently sized character, at least in regards to like recurring guest characters, that I think it was worth putting on at least the honorable mentions. The next honorable mention is Frost from season 8. Once again, just a, large character, part of Team Flash. And also she had like a pretty decent storyline that went along with it, tied into like the Deathstorm stuff. So I think it's worthy, at least in regards to the build up and also the effect it had on the show and certain characters and everything like that. And the last honorable mention is Nora West Allen, the daughter of Barry, not the mum, the daughter. This is from season 5 towards the end. Arguably, she did it herself. She sort of like messed up the timeline enough where this would happen, but it was still like a big impactful death and everything like that. But though, once again, this is undone because we get the character literally the next season, I think. Did she show up in season 6? I think she does. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, Nora West Allen, last honorable mention. But let's move into the top 3. At number 3, we have H.R. Wells from season 3. Now, do the twist, I guess, would be the dance move associated with this choice. Of course, HR does die, swapping places with Iris, and dies at the blade of Savitar. And HR just sort of does this as he felt responsible for Iris being caught in the first place after giving her location up to Savitar, who of course was pretending to be just the normal Barry. Obviously, a big impactful death at the time, bit of a one that sparked conversation, I guess you could say. But I think he deserves to be in the top 3 based off the scene and just the build up from the season as a whole and everything like that. And number 2, we have Henry Allen from season 2. And not only to us, the audience, but of course, Barry as well. This was like ripping your heart out. Only shortly after getting out of prison for something he did not do, Henry is then killed by Zoom just so Barry can feel just a little bit more like him. Petty move. Ruthless, but petty. But that was a rough one for Henry. Both obviously for Barry as well, and then for us watching. But at number 1, I think this is pretty obvious what number 1 is going to be, especially if you've been keeping track. And that's, falling in line, because we had a season 3 death at number 3, a season 2 death at number 2, and number 1 we have a season 1 death. And this is Eddie Thorne. Now, I think this is clearly the biggest in regards to just a singular moment and what it meant, as well as the repercussions that followed. It caused a singularity, might I say, as it essentially like cancel cultured the events from that timeline, and of course impacted how not only Team Flash functioned for a bit afterwards, but also Barry's reliance on people around him and not wanting to throw people into the face of danger based off what he is doing, because then they could, die like Eddie did. And this was just a massive moment that just then came full circle when it played into the Flash's final of a storyline in season 9. So I think Eddie Thorne, in regards to the moment, what it meant, the character that was dying and there being a regular in season 1, just the connections to the story and everything, I think it's an easy number 1. Maybe some might disagree, but for me, I think this is an easy one to put at number 1. But maybe I'm wrong. You'll have to let me know. But yeah, guys, that's my top 10 deaths from The Flash from season 1 to season 9. It was a bit mixed, I think. There was nothing really. There's a death technically from every season, I think, if you include the honorable mentions except for season 7, I think. I don't know, did anyone important die in season 7? I can't remember. But anyway, that's what happened. Actually, did Abracadabra, was that season 7? I think it was. So Abracadabra, but I don't know. I don't know if I put that top 10, but maybe that should have been an honorable mention. I don't know. That we could have included all the seasons. But yeah, that's the last thing there. So if you want to include Abracadabra, that makes it, there was a death from every single season. But that's my top 10. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like when it shows support. Let me know in the comment section down below your top deaths. Do you have any that I missed out on, or would you move them around? Would you have Eddie at number 7 and then, I don't know, HR at number 1? You have to let me know. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the, not if you enjoyed the video, but if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.